What's going on, YouTube? My name is Skill87, and in today's video we're going to be reviewing the monster exclusive for the PlayStation 4, Bloodborne. So, why is this review so late? Truth be told, because I've been playing the shit out of Bloodborne. It's ridiculous, this game. I absolutely love it. I am a humongous fan of From Software. I'm a humongous fan of the Souls franchise. I have been telling people for years, the Souls franchise is immaculate. It's in a league of its own. If you claim you're an RPG gamer, and you have not played the Souls franchise, I got news for you. You're fucking garbage. The game is ridiculous. There's no reason you can claim to be, or you would claim to be an RPG gamer and you haven't touched the Souls franchise. You do not know what it's like to die over and over and over for your own mistakes. The game is fair as shit, but you're going to keep dying over and over and over. And it's so satisfying when you beat your first boss. Then when you finally beat the game, saying to yourself, yes, I fucking did it. One of the hardest games to date, and I conquered it. Then you go into a new game plus thinking you're all beefed up and shit. Bam, first enemy kills you, like, fuck, I gotta start over. It's ridiculous. So let's talk about Bloodborne. The changes From Software has made to the franchise, the formula. Some good, some bad. Let's talk about how they've really stepped the game up this time around with Bloodborne. Bloodborne, let's get this out the way right now, it's not a Souls game. It looks, plays, and feels like a Souls game, but it's its own IP. Okay? Sports the same combat, same flow, same menu, armor system, etc., magic, but it's its own thing. I'm going to be referring to Souls a lot just because I'm just really used to saying that for this type of game. But don't get confused, Bloodborne is its own thing. It has nothing to do with the lore of the Souls franchise. So about the story. From Software does it right. I love the way From Software does their story. This game has a story. It's there. It's dark. It's deep. It's thrilling. It's ridiculous. It's violent. There's all types of NPCs to come across. There's all types of lore to uncover. But this game does not hand it to you. You have to earn it. You have to go out and look for it. From Software is one of the few developers that can tell a story with the environment. If you pay close attention to the environment, like you're really supposed to do in any Souls game, the game tells you a story. It is wonderful. When you first start the game off, you wake up in a clinic, and you come across your first enemy, and he whips the shit out you by design, and you enter the game's central hub, which feels like a safe haven, similar to how it was in Demon's Souls. Once you leave this sanctuary and you re-enter the original area, the clinic, you got your first trick weapon, your first offhand weapon, you whoop that fucking werewolf's ass and you open that door and bam, late 1800s, early 1900s setting, you're in a place called Yarnum and you're like, cool, this is something new. Souls game is typically very medieval. This game is not medieval. Everything kind of looks familiar. It's a very familiar setting. It is beautiful. Immediately, right off the bat, you can tell you're playing a next generation game. The Souls game has never been really big on graphics. They've been more on gameplay. The Souls franchise, From Software, has always been a kind of a low budget in a sense. This game clearly screams money because this game's graphics, the draw distance, the environments, the sound, ambiance, the gameplay, everything feels AAA. It is fabulous. The tessellation, the wind effect. You ever play those Batman games? These latest Batman games where the fucking Batcave does all over the place. It looks ridiculous. Imagine every piece of armor from yourself and your enemies, everything just looks realistic as hell. It is wonderful. Such a giant leap from Dark Souls 2 to Bloodborne. The leap is phenomenal. Like the graphical leap is just, whoa, this is awesome looking. And so, let's go back to the story. So as you're progressing, you start taking on these humanoid enemies that have hair growing everywhere, as if they're werewolves. Everything around you is fucked up. Everything looks like some kind of, like, just, the best way to explain it is shit's fucked up. And every NPC you come across calls you a hunter, and they refer to what's going on as the hunt, and nothing is explained to you. You have to keep playing the game, picking up items, because From Software loves to tell a story through its items. Every item you pick up, check its lore. Every weapon you pick up, check its lore. Every piece of armor you pick up, check its lore. Every key you pick up, check its lore. Because they all come together and they tell you a story. And then when you meet NPCs that are wearing similar armor to the ones you pick up, and they start explaining shit to you and where they're from, and you start uncovering what covenant they represent, and what they believe in, what they don't believe in, what they hate, what they don't hate. It all starts coming together, and you start finally understanding what is going on. You start understanding why you're called a hunter, what this hunt is. It is dark and it's delicious. It is fabulous. It is ridiculous. It is one of the better stories so far from Software. Absolutely good job. So, let's talk about this game's graphics. Like I said before, this game looks ridiculous compared to Dark Souls 2. The game is such a giant leap. You can tell this is a true next generation game. Okay, the Souls games have never looked this good. Tessellation, the wind effects, everything, animations, even something as simple as your fucking leather coat just going to in the wind just keeps you mesmerized by how cool your character looks. Nothing makes the game more enjoyable than controlling a character that looks cool as shit. Okay, you have to admit that. Let's talk now, as far as graphics are concerned, let's talk about the game's engine. The game's engine at the moment has a couple things wrong with it. And, you know, I keep it real. Granted, I love the game. I keep it real with you guys. The game runs at 30 frames per second, which is understandable. The game is at 1080p, but at times the game will dip in frames. Then it will go as low as 1 frame. Not often, but it happens. And then sometimes the game has frame rate skips. The game also sports some of the worst loading screens I've ever come across. Going back to the central hub or dying and then reloading your stage can sometimes take as long as 30 to 40 seconds long. Luckily, From Software has been communicating with us through the Japanese websites, because From Software is an all-Japanese company. There's no one that speaks fucking English with them. They have never, ever, ever communicated to the American customers because they just don't. You have to actually go to Japanese sites and translate the shit. And they have stated patch 1.03, which is coming out before the end of this month, is going to address a lot of loading issues, frame rate dips and skips, etc. They apologize for releasing the game in its state. They just had to meet the release date. And the game also is sporting a brand new engine. And like I said, this developer has never been, one to have a lot of money for their games. So now they finally come across a lot of fucking money. And, when they build this new engine, it just wasn't ready in time. It is what it is. At least they're honest. I can appreciate that, but I'm not gonna leave out the shit in my review. It is what it is. The game has that loading issues and frame rate skips. They do not make your gaming experience they don't deter from your gaming experience. Just that when you die and you gotta sit there with the fucking 30-second Bloodborne screen, sitting there like this. Fuck. So, just about the game's controls. Game controls phenomenally because it feels and plays like the Souls games. Now imagine what you've been playing for years, but just more responsive. That's the controls. That's pretty much all I'm going to say about the controls, because the controls for the Demon Souls and Dark Souls has always been on point. Top-notch controls, nothing to complain about. Just more responsive. Next, Ambiance. This game sports the best ambiance ever from Software. The developing team is called From Software, so it's retarded. The Souls games have never been big on ambiance. They've had ridiculous boss music, amazing weapon sounds, and death sounds. Bloodborne cranks it up a notch. Now, there's general ambiance in the game. When you're climbing up your first ladder and you hear the Cleric Beast roar in the background, when you just see patrols running around, right? Little humanoid enemies with little watchdogs, and they're following them. And you just hear the sounds of the ambiance in the background. When you just hear the sounds of fire and weapons clashing and the sparks flying, everything feels not only next gen, but high budget. The orchestra, the very overly dark orchestra that plays when you fight a boss is so ridiculously good. It's on the levels of a horror game. This game is not hard in any shape, way, or form, but because the ambiance is so on point, this game has you on edge. This game does it better than actual horror games, and that's saying something. This game's soundtrack is beautiful. It's in a league of its own, proving once again that From Software is possibly in the top 3 when it comes to making RPGs. They just have it. They just got it. Their team is ridiculous. They had a trailer. We're talking about Bloodborne, and the lead designer is talking about how people doubted the original games, and they dominated, because sometimes it just takes a group of dedicated developers to create something that's different from the norm. And they refuse to be the norm. They're their own thing. That's why the From Software is such a ridiculous cult fan base worldwide. Let's talk about the game's gameplay. The reason you bought this game. Now, I got a lot of things to talk about this gameplay. This section might be about 10 minutes long, but yeah. Typically in a Souls game, there's a lot of magic. There are a lot of weapons, and then there are a lot of builds. These are the biggest attractions to the Souls games. FromSoft has done something to this formula and taken away a lot in favor of something better. This game's combat is the fastest it's ever been. This game's combat is the most responsive. These are the changes. FromSoft has removed shields from the game, rendering the idea of a turtle build useless. The developers do not want you blocking in this game because blocking is gay. And I'm quoting the lead designer. It's absolutely gay. Okay, I'm exaggerating. But hunters in this game's lore do not block. They carry a weapon in one hand and a gun in the other. This game is all about dodging and parry. And when an enemy comes at you, the pistol, rifle, shotgun, cannon in your left hand, whatever you choose, will be used to stun an enemy while they're attacking you. Only certain attacks from enemies can be stunned. The bullets themselves do weak damage. They're not used to actually hurt your enemy, but to stun them. Every enemy has at least one skill that can be stunned. Once you stun them, you go up to them, your character takes his hand, it turns to some kind of claw, and he puts it right through them. It's called a Visceral Attack, and that is how you parry enemies in this game. If you choose not to utilize your offhand weapon in favor of a two-handed weapon, such as the Great Axe, or excuse me, the Great Hammer, Great Sword, you have a multitude of skills you can use on top of your dodging skills to take down your enemies. This game has what's called the regain system. The regain system is pretty unique. Because shields have been removed from the game, there is no actual defensive mechanics at all in this game. This game has what's called the regain system. If an enemy hits you, this is your health bar, an enemy hits you, it goes down this far, but you notice the red is now pink. You have up to 2 to 3 seconds to become overly offensive and smite back the enemy. And every swing you take at the enemy recovers some of your lost health. It is possible to get hit really hard from an enemy, and your reaction to that hit is to unleash hell on him and get all your health back. Now, the window for getting your health back is very small. If an enemy hits you and you roll away, you are more than likely not be able to get your health back, and you're going to have to use a blood vial to get your health back up. If you get hit by an enemy and your immediate reaction is to fight back, you'll get your health back. This is a clever way of replacing the shield mechanics. There's no blocking in this game. There is a wooden shield in the game, and it's ultimately useless. It's more like a joke. There is no defensive playstyle in this game. It's offense, pure offense. Hunters in this game by lore are pure offensive warriors. You just go up to an enemy and you fight. Enemy comes at you, you don't run away. You shoot him in the fucking face. He gets stunned, and you put your goddamn hand through them. Backstabbing has been removed from this game in favor of the Visceral Attack. There is no backstabbing at all. If you want to backstab an enemy, it's called a Visceral Attack. A Visceral Attack can be done from the front or the back. And a Visceral Attack can only be done when you have shot an enemy and he got stunned, or you made an enemy kind of fall to his knees. If you want to use a Visceral Attack from an enemy from behind, you have to sneak up behind him and hold R2. Your character will take his weapon, and a spark will fly, and it'll stab him in the back. The enemy will then fall to their knee, allowing you to follow up with a Visceral Attack. Like I said, there are no backstabs in this game. It's called a Visceral Attack. The Visceral Attack, your character puts his weapon away, and he takes his bare hand and puts it through the enemy. This is unique, because now this takes away from people cheesing PvP, going up to enemies, or random people just backstabbing them. That's gone now. PvP is much more skill-based because there's no blocking, there's no turtle, mechanics, there's no bullshit backstabs, just visceral attacks, and that can only be activated when an enemy has been stunned properly. Very, very nice changes. A lot of people agree with these changes. It's fabulous. Another change to the game's gameplay is there is no more weight system. This is an interesting change I don't 100% agree with, but at the same time, I do agree with it. Back in the Souls games, you had the weight system. Depending on your endurance, would depend on your stamina and how much weight you can equip. Basically, you had some armors in the game that just had a ridiculous amount of defense, but if you put them on, you gained weight. This has been abolished completely. There's nothing to talk about. There's no weight system in the game. All the gear you wear in this game is leather, cloth, and there's two pieces of gear. There's two sets of armor that appear to be metal and steel, but they look more like chainmail than anything. There's no weight system. A lot of the gear in this game is very balanced. All the armors you wear are pretty balanced. You have some armors with better defense, some armors with better thrusting or blunt defense, some armors better elemental defense, some armors with better frenzy, etc. Self-explanatory. You played a Souls game before. Just understand that there's no weight system in this game. Therefore, Fashion Souls is a thing. Bitches. So, let's talk about weapons. Weapons. Something that's always been big in the Souls games is the excessive amount of useless weapons. And FromSoft has decided to abolish this concept. There is no longer 50 axes, 50 swords, 50 bows, 50 staves, etc. There is one of each. This makes every weapon important. Unlike previous Souls games where you would have like 5 different one-handed axes and only one was good, and 10 different great swords, only 2 were good. There is only one of every weapon in the game. There is one great sword, one great hammer, one one-handed axe, one rapier, one set of daggers, one katana, etc. You got the one single-shot pistol, you got a double-shot pistol, you got one shotgun, one rifle, one cannon, you got a flamethrower, you got some kind of machine that spews out silver magic, etc. This change, I feel, was required because it was really annoying to play a Souls game and you think you got a badass weapon, and then you go on YouTube, you find out there's a dagger you missed, and then you gotta go back to that dagger, and you gotta farm a bunch of fucking upgrade shit. Like, farming in the previous Souls game was a really big thing. It wasn't required, it was just something you did if you were really into PvP. And that has been abolished in a sense. Now, if you want to play with a one-handed axe, you don't have to worry about there being better weapons. FromSoft has really changed the game. If you like the one-handed axe, you can use one-handed axe through the entire game. If you like the great sword, you can use the great sword through the whole game. And another thing they changed with this is the introduction of trick weapons. Every weapon is actually 2 weapons. So, example, you got the one-handed axe. The one-handed axe is a blunt weapon. This game doesn't have slashing. All this game has is blunt and thrust. So the one-handed axe is blunt. Your character can slash with the one-handed axe. You have multiple skills with the one-handed axe. But then if you press L1, your character takes one-handed axe, he spreads it out. It becomes the game's halberd. Whoa! And then if you get the great sword turns into a one-handed sword. The great hammer also turns into a one-handed sword. The rapier turns into it has like a shotgun attachment. The spear has a shotgun attachment. All the weapons transform pretty much. There's like the 2 weapons that don't transform. This is unique because now your right hand holds your main weapon. So if you have 2 trick weapons in your right hand, you ultimately have 4 weapons. Example, there's a scythe that turns to a one-handed sword, and then there's daggers that turn into double daggers. So the amount of weapons you actually have, granted there's only, there's 26 weapons in the game, that's it. There's an actual trophy. Once you collect all 26 weapons, bam, you get the trophy. That's all the weapons in the game. Once you get all these weapons, you can base your build off these weapons. So some people don't agree with this change. I agree with it. I don't see the point of having 1,000 great swords if only 2 of them are actually good. How about we just have 1 great sword and then you base your build around that? Also, for those who are really into the Chalice Dungeons, which I'll talk about later, you can acquire different variations of almost every weapon in the game. So, example, you got the Ludwig's Holy Blade. You got 2 other Ludwig's Holy Blades that have the same stats, just different slots for different builds. Let's say you want to have a pure arcane build. There's a different type of Ludwig's Holy Blade you get from Chalice Dungeon that will offer you different slots that work as rings in this game to put different runes into your weapon. Bam. So that change is pretty interesting. The amount of items, consumables, throwables have also been adjusted. Basically speaking, a lot of the useless shit that was in previous Souls games is non-existent. Every weapon in this game is useful. Every weapon is viable. Every weapon is good. There is no, this weapon is better than the other. It's whatever you like. If rapiers are your thing, if great swords are your thing, if great hammers are your thing, then you will use that weapon in your whole playthrough. There is no more dominant weapon. Granted, some bosses are weaker to certain stats. You will have to, obviously learn their weaknesses. This doesn't make your weapon useless though. This change, I feel, helps the flow of the game and kind of streamlines it a little bit. Let's talk about magic. Hunters are not magicians, unlike previous Souls games where they had an excessive amount of magic. Like Dark Souls 2, you had like, what, 50 fucking thousand spells. Let's be realistic. Most of the spells were really fucking useless. The very few magic that does exist in Bloodborne is unlike previous Souls games. You have one giant AoE spell, you have one pushback AoE spell, you have one healing spell, you have one homing rocket spell, etc. You have one dodge better spell, you have one camouflage spell. This takes away from any player that wanted to play a mage build in this game. But like I said, this game has a new lore, new combat system, new approach to the game, to the franchise. This is not a Souls game. This is Bloodborne. You are a hunter. Hunters hunt. Hunters are not mages. Hunters do not block. Hunters dodge. Hunters parry. And hunters are not fond of magic. There are spells in the game, but they're not. You don't actually have a wand or a catalyst. You equip them in your quick use slot, and you have what's called bullets. You use your bullets to fire your weapon, or you use your bullets to activate your magic. It's a simple concept, and like I said, every weapon in the game is viable, and every spell in the game is viable. I don't feel there's any bad spells. I don't feel there's any bad weapons. I actually like the chain. I like the fact that when I acquire a new weapon, I like the fact when I acquire a new spell, it's good. Unlike in previous Souls games where you can pick up junk. There's no junk in this game. There's the one wooden shield, which is a piece of shit. It's more of a joke. But everything you pick up in Bloodborne is useful. Okay? I like that change. Another change to the game is your stats. In previous Souls game, you had about, nearly 10 different stats to allocate when leveling up your character. This game has really changed. Now all you have is your vitality, your endurance, your strength, your skill, which is your dexterity, and your arcane. Okay, and your blood tinge. Blood tinge is the stat that works towards improving the power of your guns. And there's one weapon in the game, that your katana, that works with your blood tinge. This change really dampens the amount of builds you can possibly pull off. You see, with the large amount of stats in previous Souls games, it was really a big thing to base your character's build off the many different types of stats in the game. You could have a kind of hybrid mage build, a pro strength or pro skill build, a pro single weapon build. You can have a pro build that was based around one spell. All those ideas and concepts have generally been eliminated. Everyone's character in Bloodborne is relatively similar. Your playstyle just depends on what you want. When you go online, you're not going to see a guy with 1,000 clouds above his body that home in on you. No, everyone is on a very similar playing field. This change is somewhat hated by the community and loved by the community because now everyone's on a more equal playing field. This doesn't mean that a multitude of builds don't exist. This just means that the possible thousands of builds that once existed in previous Souls games are irrelevant because the stat allocations have been really streamlined. The hotspot eye level for this game, unlike previous Souls games, where previous Souls, like in Demon Souls 1, the big PvP level is 100, and in Dark Souls 1 and 2 it was between 100 and 130. Bloodborne seems to be very similar to Dark Souls 2, between 100 and 130. The way people connect to you in co-op and PvP, there needs to be a 10 level difference. If there's a bigger 10, if there's more than a 10 level blood soul level, your level in general. If you're level 120, you can be invaded by people who are like, 110 to 120, okay, 115 to 125, okay, 120, 130, etc. It's just that 10 level difference. Some people don't like this because it's making it hard for them to co-op, but then at the same time, this also eliminates people from helping players with the overpowered characters. Every time you get invaded, it's by someone who's relatively just as strong as you. When someone comes to help you in co-op, they're pretty much just as strong as you. There's a lot of balancing in this game. Okay, some traditional Souls players might not agree with this. I, for one, am open to the change. I see the benefit of everything being equal playing grounds. Okay. So lots of changes to the game's combat and formula. Another thing I want to talk about is the game's boss. So unlike Dark Souls 2, where a lot of bosses were just really bigger versions of regular enemies, every single boss in Bloodborne is unique. Every single boss in Bloodborne, optional or main boss, is fun to play against. And every single boss is more than likely going to whip your fucking ass. This game also sports a lot of secret areas. There is one secret area, the Canehurst Castle, that you can spend hours in, and you actually never even have to go there. This game has a lot of optional things to do. Let's talk about this game's weak points, and there's not that many. So besides the game's engine problems, which will be adjusted soon, the NPCs in this game, as interesting as they are not as interesting as the previous Souls games. I do not like the fact that two specific NPCs, their character development takes giant jumps, okay? You got this one dude who's an executioner, you know, and he goes from like Friar Tuck-ass motherfucker to crazy-ass dude and like, and you didn't even see it coming. Like, okay, that jump was kind of big. And you got this one girl who wears like a bunch of feathers and shit. And when you meet her, you think she's a badass. But then as the game progresses, she just comes off as weaker and weaker. And in older Souls games, you can interact with one character, and he was relevant through the whole fucking game. You would always get help from these characters for different bosses. This game seems to not really take advantage of what they were able to accomplish with NPCs in prior games. Like I said, the NPCs are interesting in this game. They're wonderfully, their voice actors are wonderful. They look great. But the few interactions you have with them are good, but it's just not enough. There's just not enough NPC interaction when it comes to their character development. Their jumps are just too big. Okay, so you got some good, you got some bad. I know I meant, wait, one more thing. When it comes to being invaded now, there's two ways to get invaded. You can make it so you ring a certain bell and the invaders just keep coming one after another. Like you basically welcoming them into your game. Or there's a bell you ring where you call for help. And when you call for help, there's also a chance you're calling to get invaded. When you call for help, a specific NPC monster will appear in your stage that rings a bell. And while this bell is ringing, you can be invaded. So there's that risk. When you call for help, you can be invaded. So once you kill this enemy that's ringing a specific bell, you can't be invaded no more. Pretty interesting concept. I like it. You don't get invaded as much in this game as you did in previous Souls games. In previous Souls games, as long as you were connected to the intent, you can be invaded. In this game, invasion is not a big thing. You have to actually, in a sense, want to be invaded in Bloodborne. This is a good and a bad change. It takes away from the idea of playing online, but it also adds to the idea of not being constantly fucking invaded. Like I said, more of a balancing thing. I feel From Software made a lot of good decisions in this game. Some of the decisions I feel could have been handled differently. Like personally speaking, like I said, I'm really digging the fact that they cleaned out the inventory. There's no useless shit in the game. But at the same time, I kind of miss the idea that I can make really stupid fucking builds just for the lulz. Like I created a bunch of characters in Dark Souls 2, and I had some really fucking stupid builds. I had a Pyromancer build, I had a Hex build, I had a fucking Blue Arrow build, I had a fucking Dagger build. I had all types of really ridiculous builds. And as we're in Bloodborne, there's honestly only maybe 10 builds I actually want to do in this game. Yes, for the sake of balancing, but then you took away from the ridiculous replayability that this game could possibly have. The replayability in this game is very high. Every new game, plus the game just gets harder and harder and harder, but you will ultimately play the same way you did in previous playthroughs. So I know this review was long, nearly 30 minutes long, but I had a lot to say about this game because I have a lot of respect for From Software. I have a lot of respect for Bloodborne. This game is getting immaculate AAA scores for a fucking reason. Do not skip this game. Play this game. If you need any reason to buy a PlayStation 4, Bloodborne is your answer. Bloodborne for the PlayStation 4 From Software. You guys get a 9.5 out of 10 from me. Thank you for watching my video. Thank you for bearing with me in this video. I know I had a lot to say, but guess what? I know I have a lot of YouTubers that truly appreciate the amount of detail going through my reviews. A lot of reviewers don't do what I do, and I feel that more people like me need to fucking exist. Believe. So catch you guys next video. Once again, 9.5. Deuces.